Welcome to Pagan Crafting. I'm Kara. Today we're going to make a Pet Cemetery night snow globe. So join me today as we get to play with clay, painting, and sparkles. Starting off with a very simple snow globe I got at the local hobby store. I got this little mini skeleton dog at Michael's craft store. I'm sure you can find figurines like this online, or you can do some 3D printing. You can probably do some 3D printing on making the tombstone if you'd like as well, if you're so inclined. I'm going to use some polymer clay, and then I'm going to be sealing that in. Oh, I love this little guy. I didn't even notice that there actually is some skulls on here. This is a beautiful little cushion he's on, a little velvet cushion, and look at the skulls. That is so awesome. I had no idea. Well, I'm going to put that off to the side for a bit, and what I'm going to do before I jump into that project, what we're going to do is we're going to make the tombstone, because I need that in the oven to start baking. So while that's baking, we're going to work on the rest of the stuff. Sizing up our little dude here. I do want the tombstone to be a fair size. I kind of want it like this would be the pillow that would be like the stone pillow that would be in front of the tombstone, so they would have a beautiful little bed for the afterlife. But we're gonna just keep this tombstone itself very simple because there's a lot of detail already. That's with the dog, the skeleton dog, and the pillow it's on. Now the reason why I'm using the wax papers, because I don't like the residue of the Sculpey or any type of clay on my working station, so that's the only reason for that. Keeping this just really simple. I'm not going to do anything super spectacular here because I want the sparkles to be able to fall off the sides very easily. And I'm going to add detail on with the paintings. So again, keeping it very, very, very simple. I'm making a little snake here, and I'm going to trim the edges here ever so slightly, just to pop it out. And I'm only going to do that on one of the sides. And we're going to add some cracks, like cracks in the granite I mean. And some bunch of little cracks and lines in here and edges, and then when we go to dry brush that's going to all punch out. Again, just something super, super easy. And while that's in the oven, we're going to be building up the base of the platform of where the tombstone on the dog's going to reside. So this takes a little bit while to cool down, so we're going to just let that cool, build up a layer. Let it cool, build up a bit more of a layer. Now that this is all baked and ready to go, gonna add a simple black layer, just some flat black, letting it dry. While that's drying, we're gonna add on our black layer on our base. And I'm just gonna use inexpensive craft paint because we're gonna again seal this later with a UV resin, like the UV resin light, so that's going to waterproof it. I want to see these skulls. Now look at this. Watch how these skulls are gonna pop out. Oh, and it looks like stone now. Look at that. That looks so cool. Yeah, that needs a little extra there. We're gonna work on the tombstone now. The flat black is dry. I didn't do much texture around the edges. I should have done some cracks and stuff, but we're gonna see some cracks pop out here in just a moment. Just dry brushing, trash brushing it in, and letting those little nooks and crannies pop out right out for you. And I'm gonna do a little dog bone here. And with the dog bone, we're also gonna write RIP, little rest in peace. And we're gonna have the name Floki, just something we went with there. And I wanted it to pop out a little bit more, so I'm gonna add a little fine little trim around the edges of some light, very, very, very light gray. And any mistakes you make, just go over it with black again, sharpen it right back up. And just work with it till you get what you like and get that, and it gives that kind of an indentation when you put the white lines around the black. Going with a nice olive or moss green, and just punching in some dry brush to give it a mossy old look to it too. Now what we're going to do is we need to seal this color in because it is an acrylic, it's water-based, so I don't want this to come off in time. We're going to grab some UV resin and do a nice coating. Now I want it doing a couple coats. And a good coat over top of the tombstone. Did 2 coats of that layers, cooked it, and while that was cooking I did another layer all the way around the little pillow, I guess if you will, too. Even though it's velvet, it's going to be hard now, so I did a good resin coating on that too to protect that for time. Now that I glued that down, I'd like to hide some of this glue that I have squishing out the sides. I'm going to add a little bit more green, and just the black bottom was really boring to me. So I'm going to add some greenery, give it some mossy look to it, some grass around the tombstone, and I like the layers over the green over the other green because it actually gives it some more dimension. I decided to bring some of the green right up over the pillowcase to look like it's been sitting there like a long time. Telling a little story. Now I'm going to hop right into the UV resin and do a coat again over top of that now to seal in the latest green. And a little bit more I'm going to do around the back side too. And you don't need too much at all, just a fine thin coating I found. Adding a little bit as you go. I found this bottle have lasted me a long time for my little diorama builds. And just using whatever excess I had left there. Now, because this doesn't quite fit underneath my light, I wound up doing all sides and all angles and cooked it for 2 minutes each side. And there's our little guy. He's all sealed up. Looks like he's been there for a long time. Next up here is we want to use the water. So we're going to use the cap upside down so we can stabilize our globe. And I'm going to use distilled water. I read in a few places that that's the best to use. And the water's super cheap. This is like $1 to buy. And now that everything is sealed, your little guy and all your paint job has been waterproof. So you can test how deep you need to make this here. Look at that, he's just fine. I don't really want to see a bubble at the top. Now I have 2 types of sparkles here. I wound up having to scoop a few of the silver stuff out. It wound up just being a little, a few different types of sparkles within this one. And it wound up being a little bit too heavy for it, which was a bummer. So I wound up scooping some out off camera. But the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of glycerin, a cup of distilled water, and 3 teaspoons of sparkles. I didn't use the glycerin in this one because the type of sparkles that I used were so fine that it actually globs up, and I didn't want that to happen. I did some test jars with some mason jars, and I did a couple different experiments that didn't quite work out. So I went right back, just do the plain old distilled water, 3 teaspoons of sparkles of your choice, and make a distilled water. Put in your piece, and there you go. I wound up filling it up a little bit extra. Look at you. All right, little buddy, you got a new home. And I got a little squish of the water out, but I'd rather the water squish out a little bit more than having a bubble, because all the sparkles are going to sit right where the bubble is at the top. The air bubble, that is. So I got this one pretty tight. Let's see if this works. So yeah, see how it all just clumped? I wound up having to scoop some out. I wound up having a big clumpy mess at the top, so I wound up putting that upside down and scooping some of those out. Leaving it with some finer sparkles and just the right amount that was left. I love this snow globe. I could play with this for hours. I had so much fun filming the extra and just watching it. I love the black sparkles. A little Nightmare Before Christmas, a little bit of a night snow globe with a pet cemetery. Well, thanks so very much for chilling out with me today. Let me know in the comments down below if you're gonna make your own night snow globe, and what would you put in your snow globe? Comment down below. I would love to hear your inspiration.